The NFL Combine is in full force as players start workouts tomorrow. I think kickers actually work out today, but that doesn't matter. And what sparks at the NFL Combine a lot are trade rumors. And there are a few trade buzz items that I want to dive into here on today's Four Verts episode. My name is Harrison Graham. Before we get to that, we are knocking on the doorstep. I mean, I can hear the chants of 8K just beyond that door. Can we get to 8,000 subscribers by the end of the day? The workouts really start tomorrow, so that kind of extends our deadline of what we're trying to do, which the goal was 8,000 subscribers before the Combine workouts begin. Hit that sub button, daily NFL content, and I'll tell you what, if we hit 8,000 subs today, new mock draft tomorrow, so that is my promise to you. Okay, Matthew Stafford. What is the latest with the Rams quarterback? Reportedly, teams have shown, quote, significant interest in trading for Stafford. No surprise. He's still a very good player. And then two teams that Diana Rossini mentioned specifically were the Las Vegas Raiders and the New York Giants. She added this to her report. Quote, teams are anticipating that the Rams will now be driving up the asking price if they decide to move him. And look, like most of these situations, this is going to come down to money. Matt Stafford feels like he's underpaid, needs more guaranteed money, wants more commitment from the Rams. The Rams feel like, hey, we'll pay you a fair deal. If you want more, okay, go to a team like the Giants. Go to a lesser situation. You're 37 years old. Is there a middle ground to be found? If you're asking me today where I think he'll play next season, I would still say the Rams. But the longer this goes on, the more it becomes possible that Matt Stafford ends up in a different uniform via a trade. You look at the highest paid quarterbacks per year, I'm sure Stafford and his reps are saying, how am I making less than $50 million per year? Stafford's better than Tua Tagovailoa. Now, part of that is when guys get paid. They got paid last offseason, him and Trevor Lawrence. But, you know, even guys like Dak, who just reset the market at $60 million. If you're Stafford, you're probably saying, okay, I'm not going to ask for 60 because I'm older, but I'm a better player than Dak Prescott. That's what I would be thinking if I'm Matt Stafford. So, you know, if you're him, I understand in his reps wanting $50 million per year, but I also understand if you're the Rams, like, listen, man, you're year to year, you can retire any moment. Like, are we going to give you 2-3 years at 50, 55 a pop? You know, the Rams are a good organization. They could pivot for a year. They could go in a different direction than draft a new guy. So we'll see what happens. My guess is some middle ground gets met in the 40s somewhere. Maybe you give them 2 years, $90 million with 75 guaranteed or something like that. If you're the Rams, take it or leave it offer. But I don't think they're going to be, you know, backed into a wall by Matt Stafford at 37 years old and his agent. So we'll see how this plays out. It feels like the Rams are willing to call his bluff. Hey, go play for the Giants. Like that would be how I would approach it if I was Los Angeles. Speaking of the Giants, speaking of quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, could he end up being an option for New York? There's a combine rumor floating around. Florio brought this to the table of something he heard that Aaron Rodgers reached out to the Giants himself and expressed interest in playing there and kind of wanted to gauge their interest. Hey, would you bring me in for a year? Obviously, he played for the Jets last year, wouldn't have to move. It'd be kind of an easy transition. The Giants need a quarterback. They've been connected to Stafford in a trade, potentially drafting a quarterback at 3 or trading up. I'm a little skeptical of this. Like, is Aaron Rodgers that desperate? I do think he wants to play. I think that much is clear at this point. But at 41 years old, are you really handing out the tin can of like, please take me in? The New York Giants. I'm not saying he's going to have a lot of options, but that feels a little desperate to me. So I'm not sure I buy this report. Now maybe there's some kind of maybe his agent reached out and was like, hey, Aaron's interested in all opportunities. So if you guys are interested, reach out and we'll see if that's a good fit for us. But I'm not sure I buy Aaron himself or whoever calling John Morrow or Joe Schoen like, hey man, I'd come play for you guys. That feels like a bit of a stretch, but who's going to be interested? I've said the Steelers make sense. There hasn't been much reporting on that this week. It seems pretty quiet around Pittsburgh when it comes to Aaron Rodgers, so that may not be a realistic option. Now, a team like the Colts, who I don't mention here, there's a report that they want to bring in competition for Anthony Richardson, but does Aaron Rodgers want to compete with a year 3 player? He probably wants a guaranteed starting job. So a team like the Giants, if they don't trade for Stafford, a team like the Raiders, if they don't get a Sam Darnold or if they don't get Stafford, Tennessee, if they pass on a QB at 1 and take Abdul Carter, we'll talk about the Titans in a second. Does Rodgers want to play for a non-contender? That's why I said it last week on a video. I'll say it again. To me, Steelers, if they're interested, which maybe they're not, and then Rams if they trade Stafford. Those feel like the two best scenarios for Aaron Rodgers, because otherwise, any team available for him to start for, probably a non-contender. And at 41 years old, maybe he is desperate to play. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to put myself in his shoes with how much money he's made and hits he's taken and all that stuff. You want to go just slug it out for a 5 or 6 win team? That seems pretty uninspiring if you're asking me. What say you? Predict it for us. Where will Stafford and Rodgers play next year? I still think Stafford stays in Los Angeles. I thought Pittsburgh would make sense, but maybe that ship has sailed. And if not, I have no idea where Rodgers is going to play. Let us know what you guys think. Rodgers' former teammate, Jaire Alexander, could be on the trade block as report from Ian Rappaport that the Packers have had trade conversations with their star corner, and they are open to moving him. And, of course, they're open to moving him because there's friction between him and the team, and he hasn't been healthy. You look at his last 4 years, he can't stay on the field. He's played in 7 games in each of the last 2 years, missed 20 games in that stretch. Had a healthy 2022, but in 2021 only played 4 games. 3 out of the last 4 years, he's played less than half the games. And if you add up those 3 years, 14 plus 4, that's 18 games out of 51 possible games. It's more like a third. Like, he just has not been available. This feels like a Hail Mary, and you see teams do this right before deadlines. And in theory, free agency is a deadline to try and maximize your cap room. The Packers are hoping a team will bite. I mean, there was a report a couple weeks ago that a split between the two parties was likely, which means they're open to cutting him, which would only save them like $7 million this year with an $18 million dead cap hit. Maybe they post June 1 him, save more on June 2nd. But regardless, it feels like, and Gutekunst kind of mentioned this yesterday, that they're exploring all options. Like, I don't think he's going to be back. So they're putting his name out there as a trade. But who's trading for a corner who, by the way, a team that trades for him, you have to bring on over $16 million in cap hit next year, who has not been healthy? Like, it's not like he was hurt last year, like Javon Hargrave or something. Mostly healthy career, hurt last year. He's been injured 3 of the last 4 years for significant time missed. To me, that's a cut, and some team signs him on a 1-year deal. Okay, Harold Landry, last one here, the edge rusher for the Tennessee Titans. They would save almost $11 million if they cut or traded him. I do think they could probably find a trade here because he's at least been somewhat healthy compared to a Jaire Alexander. Plus, teams are always looking for edge rushers, pass rushers. And the Titans, there's been a lot of buzz. They really like Abdul Carter. So if they draft Carter, freeing up the cap space for Landry, it kind of just a natural swap because the number 1 pick will take on $8-9 million on the cap. You save 11 with Harold Landry. There you go. You kind of replace him with a younger and more talented player. So we'll see what happens there. He could also be a guy that just gets cut if they don't find a trade for him. But as they're trying to create as much cap space as possible because they might sign a veteran quarterback, even if they get a guy like Aaron Rodgers, sure, it's not going to cost $40 million, but it might cost $25 million. Like, they need money potentially if they do not draft a quarterback number 1 overall. So look for them to move Landry ideally in a trade. And then potentially draft Abdul Carter as his replacement. All right, that's going to do it for 4 Verts. Lots of stuff flying around. Again, if we get to 8,000 subs by the end of the day, I will launch a new mock draft tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. My name is Harrison Graham. We'll see you soon.